During a high school class project, my teacher told me it's unrealistic being a CEO. It's been my dream to be a CEO since I was 10. So I told her, it is realistic. Follow me on my journey to learn what it takes to become a CEO. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. Today I'm here with John. John, how are you doing today?
Very good. How about you?
I'm doing great. So,
Great.
about your story about being the teddy bear man, can you please tell me a little bit more about that experience and what it was like to build that company?
Well, yes, I started after my first son was born. I made a teddy bear for him. And I realized that working for other people, I was never going to make enough money for my family. So I said, right then, I said I needed to have my own business. I didn't know what a CEO was, right? Not until many years later. So I started my teddy bear business. First, I, I thought that other people would know how to sew, but it turns out nobody knows how to sew. So I had to learn myself on how to sew. I went to the store, I bought the material, I made up patterns, and I made teddy bears. And I really enjoyed doing that. After that, I said, well, people got to buy my teddy bears. So I went around to stores and found stores that would buy my teddy bears and put them on their shelves. Again, I wasn't making that much money, but I said, well, maybe I need to have my own retail space. So I opened up a peddler's cart in Burlington, Vermont. Now, I don't know if you know anything about Burlington, Vermont, but it's one of the most northern cities in the United States. So it gets very cold in the winter, but it's beautiful in the summer, right? And the city only has 38,000 people. Uh, and what I learned when I had my own cart was, I call it the Teddy Bear University. I learned that my teddy bears that I was making, nobody wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sold other people's teddy bears. And when I sold other people's teddy bears, they were so cool that I sold other people's teddy bears.
Mm-hmm.
They just were awesome, good ones, right? So I realized I needed to learn how to make really good teddy bears. So I kept trying at it. A couple of years later, I had my own factory. Year after that, I made the world's largest teddy bear. It was 28 feet tall. But still, I wasn't making any money.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I didn't think of myself as a CEO. I only thought of myself as running a teddy bear company, owning a teddy bear company. So after opening up my own factory, I realized I needed some money from investors to build kind of a dream teddy bear factory. I thought then that my goal was to make great teddy bears and sell my teddy bears in retail stores. At the time, there were probably 4 or 5 big teddy bear manufacturers,
Mm-hmm.
stuffed animal manufacturers. And I went to toy shows and things like that. And I got my bears in really good stores. But again, they didn't sell. Uh, and then I got investors, and the investors believed in my dream. And they put in about $475,000 for me to build a really good factory, buy some machinery, and continue selling my bears and making them better and better and selling them in stores. But the one thing when I started my teddy bear cart is the one thing I started was called a beargram. A beargram is not selling a teddy bear as a bear, it's selling it as a gift.
Mm-hmm.
So it really did well at Valentine's Day. Do you have a girlfriend, Mike?
No,
Why?
I don't know, cause I've been focused on myself a lot, so I haven't been really paying attention to nobody like that for real. So, no.
Well, so every guy is supposed to buy the person they love a Valentine, female, right? If they don't, they're making a big mistake. Um, so on Valentine's Day, men are supposed to buy their wives, girlfriends, daughters, mothers, flowers, candy, cars, jewelry. And I was selling teddy bears as one of those things. And people would call me up and order teddy bears with a really cool message on it saying like, honey, I love you. Hug this teddy bear and think of me, right? That business, that little business that I was doing was the best I did all year long on selling teddy bears. People would call up and buy a teddy bear, sight unseen, give me their credit card. I get paid before I delivered it. So I had the money in my pocket, and all I had to do was deliver the teddy bears, right? Which really, it was more than a teddy bear. It was a message with a bear and chocolates in a beautiful gift bag. I eventually upgraded to a really good, beautiful gift box. But it basically has been a beargram is really a bear with a great message in it, which is the most important thing on a gift, right? The message. Some people think it's the gift, but it's really the message. Um, and men don't know how to say anything nice to women mostly. So we really became good at the Teddy Bear Company. I had a lot of female people taking phone calls, and they helped every man that called up say a message. Because the first thing they would say is, what kind of message do you want? The guy would go, I don't know. And so the person answered the phone would say, how about, I love you very much. Thank you for being my Valentine's Day. I hug this bear and think of me. That was really the most popular, right? Guy would go, great, yeah, that one. That's what I want, right? And so the bears were so popular as Valentine's Day gifts that men then bought them all year long for everybody else. People in their office, their moms, their grandmothers, daughters. And anybody who bought one bear would buy on an average of 3 times a year, some 5 times. I had really amazing customer service, and uh, our rate of people buying more than once was really great. So the day I raised the money was the day I learned what a CEO was. And I ran the company for 7 years not understanding what a CEO was, or caring what it was. And the day I raised the money, I still own most of the shares of stock. But when you raise money from investors, they want to know who the CEO is. And the CEO is, as you know, the chief executive officer. So whoever owns the most shares of stock in a company could fire or hire a CEO. Or if just combine the number of shares of stock in a company and they could change the CEO. So the CEO is not necessarily the boss. But I tried to hold on to my stock as long as I could, but I kept needing more money. So every time I raised more money, I sold more of my stock off. I did that for 5 years. We went from $400,000 in sales, selling in stores, to once I realized that my bears were gifts, I went to 1.7 million, 5.6 million, 10.5 million, 17 plus million, and 20 plus million. And that's where we went public. Going public means that we were selling our shares of stock for a certain amount of money. So when you start a company, you're creating stock. Most people create 200 shares of stock and they give them all to themselves, right? But however many shares of stock you create, you're creating them at 1 cent a piece. The day we went public, I sold them at $10. So I owned 1.4 million shares of stock that I was selling at $10 a piece. I made the mistake by not selling any stock that day. But everybody else, the investors and everybody else, sold the stock that day, and they made millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars off of me with their investment. I also was no longer the biggest shareholder, so I really was an employee of the company, and the board of directors decided whether I was going to remain as CEO, and I was doing a really good job. But after we went public, I didn't want to be the CEO anymore because when you're the CEO, you literally have to watch everything, kind of. Even though I had a great team, but you really become good at watching numbers. How much cash you're bringing in, how much cash you're spending, budgeting, cash flow, P&L statements, balance sheets, things like that. But I've been now running this company for 15 years, and I said I would rather start up another company, right? And I got into making bicycles. And the CEO we hired, who I didn't like, took the stock at the time when we brought him in as the head of the company. Once you go public, okay, The company starts, you sell the shares of stock to an investment banking firm. They pay you $10 a share. So I didn't structure the thing right, but we sold 1.3 million shares of stock for $10 a piece. And that gave us a lot of money, right? And with that money, we're supposed to build a new factory, expand our business into Europe, do things like that. So you write up a plan on what you're going to do with their money. And I began doing that. But I said, as we began doing that, I said, I really don't want to be the person every day running all the meetings and all that kind of stuff. So we brought in a new CEO, and he took the stock. The stock started at 10, started at penny, went to 10. The very first day of trading, went over $20. So that put an evaluation of the company at about $118 million from a teddy bear cart, right? So I thought the company was going to be successful forever and ever because they had great formulas, right? So the new guy comes in and he changes all my formulas, and he goes back to selling to stores. He goes back to selling teddy bears retail in stores. And he took the stock from $8.50 down to below $1. So he lost all the money of the company. And we were no longer going in the right direction. And it took them, it took the board of directors, because I was so mad at them for changing and doing this. I said, I don't want anything to do with it anymore. I'll just keep my shares of stock, right? But it took them 4 years to catch back up and put my formulas back into place. And once they put my formulas back into place, they went back up to 20 million and eventually over 40 million. Recently, they sold off parts of their company, and I don't really know what they're doing, right? But if I was still there, I would have had the company at 100 million. So CEO and person who owns all the stock are two different things. As an example, right now I'm starting a Boston bike company, and my goal is to make the best bikes in the United States, and there aren't many American manufacturers of bicycles. And my goal is to sell my bikes as gifts and not as bicycles, because most people buy a bike for somebody else. Parents buy them for their kids, grandparents buy them for their kids, husbands buy them for their wives, buy them for their husbands so they can exercise, things like that. Couples buy them to ride together, like they'll buy a canoe to canoe together. But I don't want to be the CEO, so I'm meeting today at 3 o'clock to bring on my new CEO. And my goal and objective for the new CEO is for him to become the majority stockholder, because all I want to do, my main goal in life, is to increase the value of the share of stock from what it is now, which is 24 cents. I would like to get it up to $10 and or higher. So you could manage a company from the CEO position, which is the day-to-day activity, or you can manage a company from the chairman of the board and the board of directors, which is really managing the company from a bigger vision. So the question is, tell me about teddy bears. That's the story of teddy bears. It took me a while to succeed. I succeeded greatly. I knew how to build a company, and my net worth was all based in shares of stock, which is true with a lot of people.
So with your experience you learned like throughout the business of you growing the Teddy Bear Company, what is something that you're taking with you with starting your biking company?
Well, we were going nowhere as fast with the new investors. So one day they said, we're going to give you $50,000 more. We want you to try this Beargram idea. We want to do it in New York City. So we want you to go to New York City and buy radio ads to sell Beargrams for Valentine's Day. I did that, and then the sales took off. So the kind of business model I had was I didn't make a bear until I sold a bear. So my inventory was really low. A lot of people, care what business it's in these days, probably with most of the equipment in this room, companies they invent their, whatever it is that they're selling, and then they buy it from China, then they put it in a warehouse, and then they try to get it into a store or try to get it out into a consumer's hands. In this case, I didn't have to do any of that. All I had to do was sell a bear and then make a bear. So I learned that. The second thing I learned is that there are particular days, months of the year where I was bringing in a lot more cash than other months. Valentine's Day, which is February, Mother's Day, which is May. I did a lot of graduation, so I learned all about the different gift-giving days. And I became really good at gift-giving days, only selling gifts. But, I learned all the difference between holidays. And I learned Christmas is a huge gift-giving day, but I couldn't compete with it. Because if you listen to, I know you guys get your ads from your phones and stuff like that. But if you recognize during the Christmas season, there's so many people selling different things for Christmas. But at Valentine's Day, there's only like a couple jewelry selling people, 1-800-Flowers, a couple candy companies, one teddy bear company, And it isn't as competitive as of a holiday as Christmas. So I learned, second thing is I really learned the gift business and how big the gift business is. As an example, the stuffed animal business at the time was about 80 million, and the gift business at the same time was already 5 billion. My guess is the gift business right now is about 100 billion, maybe a trillion. I don't know. It's big. So I learned about market size. As a CEO, and I had a CEO and the owner, right, a majority stockholder, I had to learn how to deal with cash. So I had to learn how to take my Valentine's Day cash, which was a lot of money, and make that last throughout the whole year, right? So I tried to sell bears. The next month after Teddy Bear Valentine's Day is St. Patrick's Day. So we tried to sell St. Patrick's Day bears, not a really good holiday. We tried to sell Easter. Easter's an okay holiday, but right around Easter, there's Secretary's Day or Administrative Assistant Day, a good gift-giving day, and Mother's Day. And there's Father's Day, which is not a good one, graduation, which is a good one, back to school, which is a good one, it's probably pretty much it. Thanksgiving, which isn't really a gift day, But the number one reason people bought gifts from me at the Teddy Bear Company was, what do you think? What's the biggest gift-giving reason for anyone? Okay, I'm just going to tell you what it is. It's birthdays. So my birthdays were huge all year long, 12 months a year. I was doing birthdays like crazy. So I learned that whole thing. And I had to learn, again, how to keep my cash going toward running a company that was increasing in sales greatly. So with a $50,000 investment from the investors, I took it to $20 million because I managed the cash flow. So that was a big thing to learn, right? Managing cash flow is probably one of the biggest things a CEO has to do, right? Along with profit and loss statements and balance sheets. Those three things are everything. So I had to first learn cash flow, but then I had to learn profit and loss statements. So obviously my Valentine's Day profit was huge. My March profit was probably loss. My April profit was loss. Mother's profit was large. June profit was low, or anything, right? So I had to work out. Now, when you grow at the way I was growing, when we were at 10 million, I probably had 300 employees. At 20 million, we had 600. So I had to manage a lot of pieces. So, Dad talked about this. There are only 3 pieces of a company that I was concerned about. One was cost of goods sold. Do you know what that is?
No.
Cost. It's COGS.
Okay.
Or cost of services. So if you're a plumber you're not making anything, but you're serving, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a teddy bear maker or any kind of, if you're producing something, how much does it cost you to produce that thing, to get it out the door, right? The second thing is your sales and marketing expense. What does it cost you to market it? And what does it cost you to sell it? So as you know, a lot of stores like, I don't care, just name a retail store. They've got a retail store. They got employees inside. They got, pay rent and things like that. That's a cost of sales, right? Um, so I learned to put all of my spending into either sales and marketing or cost of goods sold. The last expense is administrative expense. And administrative expense is uh, what the administrative staff gets paid. The, the administrative staff is CEO, administrative assistant of the CEO. I had a really good assistant who opened up all my mail, answered all the phones, things like that. Your accounting, bookkeeping department is administrative expense. Your legal fees are administrative expense. Your insurance is administrative expense. Anything that has to do with administration. If you need a license, it's administrative expense. So you have three expenses really: sales and marketing, cost of goods sold, and administrative expense. So you figure out how much you sold, right? You add up administrative expense, which is a percent. When you're starting out, it could be a high percent, right? But once you get going a little bit, you try to keep that number low. Uh, when you hear about big companies paying their CEOs $400 million, and they're taking in, 80, $500 billion a year, that's a very little expense, right? So their administrative expense is very small because they're such a big company, right? But when you're only bringing in, a couple $100,000 and you're paying yourself 50 grand and you're paying all the other stuff, your administrative expense is really high, right? So I got my administrative expense down to 11%. I kept my cost of goods sold under 40%, and I kept my sales and marketing expense. My marketing expense was 23%, and my sales expense was 12%, which left profit left over. So you add up your expenses, subtract how many sales there is, and that's your profit. So that's the formula. So I learned that formula, and I live by it.
So when you're running your business, like what is a good way to be a good leader for those that are working for you?
It's a good question. The best way to be a good leader is one of the most important skills of a good leader is, what do you think it would be?
I'd say being able to be there for your people, like let them know that no.
I'll go. There's two.
Uh,
In fact, one of them is part of it, I would say.
I don't know.
Okay.
Honesty?
No. So when I was just talking with your father, and I said, "How's your mom?" and your father said, "She's the boss," right? What do you think your father is a good listener to your mom?
Yeah, sometimes.
Listening is the most important thing, by far. A person wants to tell you something, and you might think you know what they want to tell you, but all they care about is that you listen to them. So in my company, I had, out of all the employees, 98% of them were women. And they used to come into my office and say, "John, I want to tell you something," right? And I used to try to solve their problems. And they say, "I don't want my problem solved. I just want you to listen to me." And I said, "All I have to do is sit on my hands and listen to you talk?" They go, "Yeah, just don't do anything." When I did that, my life changed around greatly, like night and day. When I had my meetings, most of my key managers were women. And I used to think at my meetings, I had to do all the talking. And they said to me one day, they said, John, we're not coming here to listen to you talk. Just let us work out our plans so that we can all work together and get the job done. I go, I don't have to say anything. I'm good. So listening, for me, I'm a very good listener. The second thing is, I would say for CEO is communication. You have to communicate as a CEO to different things. You have to communicate to your customers, to your board of directors, stockholders, yourself, your family. You know, how you communicate is one of the most important things you could do. So I never took my business home and communicated it to my children and my family. I just didn't want to. A lot of people sometimes do. Oh, what a day I had at work. I mean, come on. You're going to compare that to what whoever your partner is had to deal with kids or go to their own job. Then you're competing with who had the harder day, right? I would just not even talk about it. So that's my personal communication, right? My business communication with my employees pretty much was I wanted to let them know I cared. So every day I made sure that they had, again, keep in mind, there were a lot of women, right? So as we began to grow, I didn't have many bathrooms. And they said to me, John, we don't have enough bathrooms. I listened. I go, oh, right. There's not enough bathrooms, because you go to a sporting event, there's always any place you go, there's always a line outside the ladies' bathroom, right? Men's bathroom, in and out, right? You don't think about it. So I listened and really, believe it or not, I put in great bathrooms. That really helped out. I also made sure that every department had their own stereo, their own music, their own coffee, really good coffee, their own area to, drink coffee and talk with tables. So I really spent a lot of my time making sure that their needs were met, that I listened to what their needs were and met their needs. I also didn't put in a time clock, again, because most of them are mothers, and they had to do like PTA meetings and stuff like that. And I didn't care if they went to PTA meetings. All I cared about is whether or not they did, whether or not we made enough bears so they could make up their time later on. They could come in the next day, work loader, whatever they wanted to do. I didn't care, as long as we kept the numbers in line. Another thing we did, which I thought was really important, is I had 4 employee events of the year. One after Valentine's Day, which at first we went to New York City, and then eventually we went to Disney World. So we took a huge field trip with a lot of people, right? It was so much fun. Now keep in mind, we were in Vermont, and a lot of the ladies that I took to New York's never been to New York City before. I get a hotel. At first it was just a beautiful hotel room with a lot of food in it. We went there, came back in 24 hours, right? It was a 24-hour trip. The next year we spent the night. So everybody, stayed in a really good New York hotel. They went to Broadway plays, sporting events, anything you can imagine. I paid for most of it, and I only charged them $50 a piece. Third year we went to Disney World. I think that was $100. So after Valentine's Day, we always did a good event because they worked so hard during Valentine's Day. Some people, I had to rent out a whole hotel because it's in February in Vermont, and you could have snowstorms and stuff, right? And these ladies, and some men would work, 18 hours a day to make sure all the bears were made and sent out. So Valentine's Day was really the celebration after Valentine's Day. Plus, after Valentine's Day was my biggest day of the year. I was really rich, right? The next holiday was our summer picnic, company picnic, things like that. And I had the best company picnics. And this kind of area in here, I call it a bocce ball court. Those are my bocce balls over there. Um, I I don't know if you ever played bocce ball, but yeah, anybody could play it, right?
Yeah.
So I had a bocce ball tournament that everybody played, and the the winner, they would play department, whoever it was, would get a week's off from work, paid. Second place, 3 days off. Third place, I think 1 or 2 days off, right? So it was really competitive. And I also had the best band, all free food. It's a giant, giant party, right? The third event was in the fall. We had an event at the factory uh, where one time we had 2 times we had a pizza bake-off. So every pizza place in all of Vermont that wanted to compete would hand out free pizza all day long. We had 10,000 people, all free pizza. And people voted on which they liked the best. And the winner won a really beautiful, like $5,000, $10,000 pizza oven. Really good one. We had a cow bingo, I don't know if they call it cow bingo or cow lotto, where you put a cow in the field with 100 squares. Wherever he drops his stuff, that's the winning number, right? I had limousine rides, and kids would lined up for a limousine ride because have you ever ridden in a limousine?
No.
Would you like to ride in a limousine?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So every kid would line up to ride in these limousines, and the limousine rider would take it, around town and come back, all day long. This limo was going, 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 right? And we also had hot air balloon, tethered balloon rides. This really cool hot air balloons, would bring in a hot air balloon, and people would get in the basket. Then he'd let them go up, and then pull them back down. Very popular. So that was our fall activity. And in December, it was our Christmas party. And our Christmas party was, again, best hotel in Vermont. Always great food, great entertainment. But the most fun of the Christmas party was everyone got to shoot their own video of whatever they wanted to do. So each department would make up a video with a real camera guy. And these things were professionally done, right? And then we would sit for an hour and watch all these videos being done. They were just so wonderful. Some were songs, some were, Star Trek themes. Administration did one. My group did one. I think we came in third once. I didn't want to come in third, but there were other people in my department that wanted to do a video, so we all did it. So I really did things for the employees that made their job a lot of fun. We were named the best company in America because our employees were so satisfied and happy. But the most important thing I did for my employees was I paid them well. So I kept my income low. And I didn't make 3 times what my lowest employee made. So I had sewers making, 40 grand, 45 grand. People on the phones were making 55,000, I watched them buy cars, buy homes, better clothing, and to watch them build lives up for themselves was really fun. And they loved doing it. So they made the company a great company.
So, how were you able to make sure to keep that positive environment throughout the time you're running that business? How were you able to keep the environment positive?
I'm really good at having fun. So that's really easy. So I was, people don't believe this, but I was done. I would go to work at 8, grab a cup of coffee, ask my administrative assistant what kind of mail I had, what kind of phone messages there were. I would go around to every department, make sure they had coffee. I was done working every day at 10:30. I had nothing to do from 10:30 until 6 o'clock. I'd go to lunch pretty much every day by myself. So I was really good at letting the managers manage their people, and I didn't have to get in a lot of detail. And I'm really good at having fun.
How are you able to, like, when you have like a tough times, like maybe your business going up and down, how are you able to stay on track to make sure that your business is able to move forward?
All right, my business. Well, that's where you have to believe in yourself. At the beginning, my business was not going up; it's going down. But once I figured it out, it just kept going up. It went up like this, which is true with a lot of companies. And then they make a mistake when they get up here because they hire a new CEO or they change the formula. Then it goes down and up and down and up and down and up and down and up, right? So I never really had a downtime at Teddy Bear, except when I left, which I didn't have control over it.
So, knowing what you know now, what is something that you have done different starting that Teddy Bear Company?
Well, now I know what a CEO is, and I know the management structure of a company. So, like I said before, I'm about to hire a new CEO for my bicycle company. I recognize the importance of the energy it takes to become a CEO and all the detail it takes in a day-to-day business. It doesn't take as much energy to be chairman of the board. So I know how to structure what I'm doing now, which is better for my lifestyle. As you can tell, I'm older than 40. How old do you think I am?
52.
You're just being kind. No, I'm 73, right? And when you're 73, you don't really have as much, you don't have that same energy you had. Like when I started the Teddy Bear Company, I was 34. I had a lot of energy, right? I worked at it all the time.
So, well, my last question, I'm just gonna keep it lighthearted. What is one fun fact that nobody really knows about you?
About me,
Yes.
I'm really smart.
Smart. Okay.
I am.
Thank you for having me,
Welcome.
allowing me to interview you today. I
I
appreciate your
loved it.
time.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming out.
Really do appreciate
I
it.
wish you well in your new thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thanks for watching this episode with John Sortino today. I learned a lot, so I really do appreciate you letting me come out here to interview. Thank you. See you guys in the next one. Peace.